Two people wake up at the same time. One will struggle forever. The other will never worry about money again. Part 1: Morning Life, Rich versus Poor. Two people wake up at the exact same moment on the same morning. The same sun rises for both. The same clock shows the same time, but their worlds could not be more different. One opens his eyes to the sound of traffic. Horns screaming outside, a broken fan struggling to move hot air. Cracked walls staring back at him like silent reminders of limitation. While the other wakes up to silence. Soft golden light sliding through floor-to-ceiling glass. Automated curtains opening slowly as if the day itself is welcoming him. One man sits up already tired, stress pressing on his chest before the day has even begun. The other stretches calmly, breathing deep, knowing time works for him, not against him. One reaches for a cheap phone with a shattered screen. Notifications filled with unpaid bills, warnings, missed calls, anxiety stacking up before he even stands. Meetings scheduled, opportunities growing. One walks into a cramped bathroom where cold water drips from a rusted tap, a broken mirror reflecting exhaustion, compromise, and years of survival mode, while the other steps onto warm marble floors. Rain shower falling perfectly, steam rising, a smart mirror lighting up with the weather, the news, and reminders not of survival, but of growth and control. One dries his face with an old towel, already late, already stressed, heart racing against time, while the other breathes in calm, knowing the day will bend around his schedule, not the other way around. Breakfast tells another brutal story. One pours cheap tea into a chipped cup, bread barely enough to silence hunger. Eating fast because time is punishment, not pleasure. The other sits at a long table. Coffee brewed perfectly, fresh fruit, protein, balance. Nutrition designed not just to fill the stomach, but to fuel performance. One eats to survive, the other eats to dominate. One steps outside into noise, dust, chaos, walking or waiting for a crowded bus, calculating every coin, every minute, every delay, while the other enters a silent elevator, descending into a private parking garage where a luxury car waits, doors opening smoothly, climate-controlled perfection separating him from the world's problems. While the other opens a laptop anywhere, city view or ocean view, money flowing even while he thinks. The other around freedom. One checks prices before touching anything in a store, heart pounding at every total. The other scrolls analyzing markets, people, systems, leverage points. Both see luxury, but only one believes it is meant for him. One returns home exhausted, mind numb, body heavy, repeating the same routine day after day, while the other ends the day planning the next move, the next investment, the next level. Understand this clearly. This is not just about money. This is about choices made years ago. Habits repeated daily, mindsets built slowly and silently. One life was designed for comfort in the moment, the other for dominance in the future. And here's the uncomfortable truth nobody wants to say out loud. Poverty is not just empty pockets, it is empty vision. Luxury is not just expensive things, it is control over time. Control over choices, control over life itself. And right now, as you watch this, you're standing at a crossroads. Because the distance between these two lives is not luck, not fate, not magic. It is decisions repeated every single day. And this is only the beginning, because in the next part, we expose how money really moves, how power really works, and why most people never cross this invisible line. Part 2: Money and Power. And this is where the real gap between rich and poor becomes impossible to ignore. Because while one person is chasing money every single day, running after it, begging it to stay, the other has built systems where money chases him quietly, endlessly. One wakes up worried about salary dates, overtime hours, and sudden expenses that can destroy the entire month, while the other thinks in years, in assets, in cash flow, in decisions that pay him even when he sleeps. One works harder every year yet feels poorer, trapped in a cycle where effort increases but freedom never does, while the other works smarter, not because he is lazy, but because he is smarter, not because he is lazy. while the other answers only to results, markets, and his own standards. One fears losing a job because it means losing everything. The other loses deals, fails investments, and still sleeps peacefully because his foundation is diversified. One saves money hoping it will protect him, hiding it like a fragile treasure, while the other invests money to make it stronger, riskier. One shows wealth, the other builds it. One talks about prices, discounts, and how things are too expensive, while the other talks about value, margins, scalability, and timing. One dreams of luxury cars and mansions. The other understands that those are side effects, not goals. One waits for permission, approval, promotion, validation, while the other moves fast, breaks rules, creates his own lane. One complains about the system being unfair. The other studies the system until he can use it, bend it, and profit from it. One thinks money is evil or hard to earn. The other knows money is neutral, a tool that only amplifies who you already are. One surrounds himself with people who discuss problems, gossip, and excuses, while the other builds a circle where ideas, opportunities, and deals are the main language. One asks, "What if I fail?" Every time he sees an opportunity, the other asks, "What if this works?" And moves before fear can stop him, waits for motivation. The other builds discipline, because motivation fades but systems don't. One consumes content endlessly, feeling productive while doing nothing. The other applies aggressively, learning just enough to move. One believes luck creates rich people. The other knows repetition creates mastery. One is busy surviving, the other is busy positioning himself for the next decade. One sees money as something external, out of reach, controlled by others, while the other sees money as something that flows toward value, clarity, and action. One thinks rich people are different, special, chosen, while the other knows they are simply playing a different game with different rules. One life is reactive, always responding to problems, bills, emergencies, while the other is proactive, planning moves before problems even exist. And here's the hard truth most people will never accept. And in the next part, we go even deeper beyond money into mindset, identity, and legacy, where the final difference between rich and poor is decided forever. Part 3: Mindset, Identity, and Legacy. The final and most powerful difference between rich and poor is invisible, because long before money shows up in bank accounts or luxury shows up in lifestyles, it first appears in the mind, in identity, in the quiet decisions nobody is watching. One person wakes up asking how to survive the day, how to avoid mistakes, how not to lose what little he has, while the other wakes up asking how to grow, how to expand, how to multiply what already exists. One sees problems as threats that must be escaped. The other sees problems as signals pointing directly to opportunity. One lives in constant reaction mode, responding emotionally to life as it happens, while the other lives in creation mode, designing outcomes before life can interrupt them. One defines himself by his current situation, his bank balance, his job title, his past failures, while the other defines himself by where he is going, not where he stands today. One fears judgment, failure, and embarrassment more than regret, while the other fears regret more than failure. Because failure teaches and regret only rots silently. One chooses comfort today and pays for it for years, while the other chooses discomfort now to buy freedom later. One fills his mind with noise, endless scrolling, opinions, distractions, temporary pleasure, while the other protects his mind aggressively, choosing what to consume, who to listen to, and where to place attention. One surrounds himself with people who reinforce limits, telling him what cannot be done, while the other builds or seeks circles that stretch his vision, challenge his thinking, and raise his standards without apology. One waits for perfect conditions, confidence, clarity, and permission before acting, while the other acts first and lets clarity catch up later. One sees time as something to kill, to waste, to escape from, while the other treats time as the most valuable asset, guarded carefully, invested intentionally. One talks about goals, dreams, and plans endlessly, While the other talks very little and moves relentlessly, one wants motivation to start. The other starts and creates motivation through progress. One believes identity is fixed. This is just who I am, while the other knows identity is built through repeated actions. Daily votes for the person he is becoming. One spends years blaming parents, society, the economy, and luck, while the other takes radical responsibility. Understanding that blame feels good, but power lives in ownership. One wants success without sacrifice, reward without risk, luxury without pressure, while the other accepts that pressure creates diamonds and sacrifice creates leverage. One sees wealth as something to consume, to show, to prove worth to others, while the other sees wealth as something to build, protect, and pass forward. One thinks in terms of lifetime earnings, while the other thinks in terms of legacy, systems, and generations. One leaves behind memories of struggle, while the other leaves behind structures that support families long after he is gone. And here's the final truth. The one that decides everything. Rich and poor are not separated by intelligence, talent, or even opportunity. They are separated by standards, by what they tolerate, by what they repeat, and by what they refuse to accept as normal. The moment you raise your standards, your identity must rise to meet them. Your habits must follow, your actions must change, and your results will eventually obey. This is not motivation, this is reality. And right now you have a choice to stay the same, comfortable, familiar, or to step into a harder path that leads to freedom, control, and legacy. Because luxury is not a destination. It is a byproduct of who you decide to become, and the line between rich and poor is crossed the moment you stop asking why me and start asking what now. This series ends here, but your decision does not. Because the future you will live in is being built today, silently, by the mindset you choose to carry forward.